You may never have heard of the red heifer. Perhaps it seems like just a detail of Jewish culture, a curiosity from the Old Testament. But what if I told you that this animal could hold the key to one of the most explosive and prophetic events of our generation? We're not talking about suppositions. We're talking about sacred texts, ancient traditions, and signs that for centuries seemed impossible, but now they're before. And more than that, they're counting down. Literally 5 cows crossed the ocean in 2020. Now only 3 remain. And if one of them passes, the whole world will feel the impact. For Jews, the third temple is the symbol of final redemption. For us Christians, it is one of the clearest warnings of the end times. The first was destroyed by the Babylonians, the second by the Romans, and since 70 AD, there's never been a temple in Japan. But all that can change. And the sign that precedes this change is silent, strange, prophetic. It's a cow, a heifer, a red animal never born, never carried weight. And that needs to be perfect, without a single white hair, without a scar, without a blemish. Can you imagine what that means? It's not just about genetics. It's about purity. And it's about time. Because according to the Mishnah, the last heifer was sacrificed in the same year as the destruction of a second temple. In other words, for almost 2,000 years, 1955 years to be exact, Israel has not seen a ritual like this. And the Mishnah states the 10th heifer will be sacrificed by the Messiah himself. In other words, if heifer number 10 is confirmed, we are on the verge of something that not even the most daring rabbis dared to predict. This isn't a movie story. It's a real-time prophecy. And the whole world is beginning to look to Jerusalem, no longer because of political conflicts, but because of a flock. What no one tells you is that the search for the perfect heifer didn't start yesterday. Cattle ranchers, rabbis, geneticists, and religious figures have been trying to find that animal for decades, literally with magnifying glasses in hand. Because a single light-colored hair disqualifies everything, and to date, all attempts have failed, or rather, all until now, because a Christian businessman from Texas, Byron, decided to act. He offered up to $50,000 to anyone who found a heifer that met the biblical. And in September 2022, 5 heifers were shipped to Israel. It's not theory, it's fact. And since then, the prophetic clock has started ticking. Today, only 3 heifers remain as candidates. And what once seemed like a legend has become an attraction. People from all over the world travel to see them. Rabbis pray. Christians weep. Muslims are alarmed. Because everyone knows, if one of them passes, the ritual of the purification will be possible, and with it, the third temple. But there's a problem. The site where the temple is to be built is the same site where the Al-Aqsa Mosque stands today, one of the holiest places, and the very idea of touching that area is seen by many as extremely provocative. Imagine then if the sacrificial altar were erected there. We're talking about a fine line between faith and war, between promise and destruction, between heaven and earth. When it all begins with a detail most people overlook, a red heifer. But you watching this video now can no longer see because the signs are being fulfilled. And it's up to us as Christians to be vigilant, not to sleep, not to be distracted, because the times may seem calm, but when the sacrifice happens, apparent peace can turn into a storm. The question is, are we prepared? Do you feel like we are living in challenging times but still can't fully comprehend what is happening? To understand the signs that surround us more clearly and quickly, it's essential to be aware of the prophecy fulfilled in our. Many still don't realize the magnitude of what's happening, and that's exactly why I've decided to offer something special to all channel subscribers, an exclusive digital ebook titled The Secret Behind the Holy Bible. This book is an unmissable opportunity to access powerful revelations about biblical prophecy that will open your eyes to today's reality. Don't miss this unique opportunity. The knowledge contained in this ebook can transform the way you view events, offering a new perspective on global events directly linked to what was prophesied millennia ago. And best of all, the process to get your gift is quick and simple. Just click the link in the first pinned comment to download the ebook immediately. Don't miss this opportunity to broaden your vision and understand what's to come. Since the time of Moses, the sacrifice of the red heifer has carried a meaning that surpasses any logical. In Numbers 19, it is written that the heifer was to be burned outside the camp, and its ashes mixed with water would create what was called the water of purification. It wasn't just a ritual, it was a spiritual act of restoration. This water was used to purify people contaminated by death. But there was one detail: it could only be produced if the heifer was absolutely perfect. And throughout history, only 9 heifers were. The next one will be the last. The 10th, the one who, according to Jewish tradition, will be sacrificed by the Messiah himself. What many overlook is that this detail, the number 10, is directly linked to Christian eschatology. If the 10th heifer is recognized and sacrificed, this would represent, in the understanding of many scholars, the beginning of the final stretch toward Christ's return. Because according to Jewish accounts, this heifer will be the starting point for the rebuilding of the third temple. And the third temple, according to 2 Thessalonians 2, is the place where the man of lawlessness will manifest himself before the glory. In other words, the sacrifice of the heifer is not just a Jewish ritual. It is a prophetic trigger of global proportions, and it's about to happen for the first time in nearly 2 millennia. But the perfection required by this ritual makes everything even more unsettling. The heifer must have all red hair. If even one white, gray, or black hair is found, he's out. She also can't have any scars, birthmarks, or wounds. She can't have been used to pull a cart, plow, or even carry weight on her back. And she must be a specific age, neither too young nor too old. Therefore, most heifer candidates end up being disqualified. Some are even born with perfect coloring, but over time different hairs appear. It's as if time is testing the prophecy. This is what led some Jews to consider genetic engineering. But the dilemma soon arose. If artificially manipulated, is this heifer still valid under the Torah? It was at this point that Byron Stinson entered the picture. A Christian businessman from Texas, he decided to take action. Aware of the prophecy, he began placing advertisements in magazines for American cattlemen. He offered up to $50,000 to anyone who found a perfect heifer. And then, in September 2022, 5 heifers boarded a plane. None of them were white, all natural. And since then, the eyes of the entire spiritual world have been on the herd. Today, in 2025, only 3 heifers remain under evaluation. The other 2 were disqualified after developing unusual hair colors. The remaining ones are being kept under strict surveillance and are treated practically as national treasures. Tourists from all over the world travel to Israel just to see these cows. It's hard to imagine, but it's real. A farmer who visited Shiloh, the town where they are located, said, "I've never seen anything like it. People from every continent come in to see cows. Something's happening here, and it's not normal." What's at stake isn't just religion. It's the unfolding of a prophecy that centuries ago seemed distant, but now it has a date, a place, and names. And the question hanging in the air is straightforward. What will happen if one of these... Will the world celebrate? Will you be shocked? Or will you react with fury? Because the rebuilding of the third temple will not be... The site where it is to be erected is sacred. 3 major religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. But right now it's and any attempt to change it could be a war, literally a prophetic war. A war many believe is already written. And if you think that's far off, think again. The heifer is alive, it's growing, and every hair on its head is being watched as if it were a ticking time bomb. The most sensitive point in this whole story isn't just the heifer. It's where the third temple should be rebuilt. For Judaism, there's no debate. The exact location of the temple is Mount Moriah, where Abraham nearly sacrificed Isaac. It's the holiest place on earth for Jews. But the problem is that this same mount already houses 2 of Islam's most revered buildings, the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa. For Muslims, this is the site where Muhammad ascended to heaven. Touching this sacred space for them, the equivalent of a declaration of war, and any movement towards reconstruction will be interpreted as a provocation. Many don't understand how much this tension is already simmering beneath. What the secular public ignores, prophecy scholars carefully observe. Israel is preparing, and at the same time, the Arab world is on alert. Adam Berkovitz, a writer and scholar of Messianic Judaism, states bluntly, Hamas's latest attacks were not driven by political reasons, but by spiritual fear. According to him, the arrival of the red heifers has awakened an ancient fear among Islamic radicals. The fear that the Jews are actually about to rebuild the temple. And if that happens, they believe the end times will have begun. In response, extremist groups have already begun to take a stand. Hezbollah, for example, has publicly stated that it considers the reconstruction an insult to Islam. For them, allowing Jews to ascend the Temple Mount is already a mistake, and building a new shrine there will be crossing a line of no return. Even tourist visits by Jews and Christians to the area have been a source of tension. There have been reports of clashes, arrests, and even threats of war. It's a powder keg, a tense silence that could explode at any moment. And all this because of a cow that hasn't even been slaughtered yet. The prophetic irony is that the Temple Mount, whose Hebrew name connotes peace, is at the center of the greatest potential war of our time. Jerusalem means city of peace, but today it is divided between threats, ideologies, and age-old disputes. Some even say that God permitted this conflict precisely so that the final signs will be fulfilled. The Bible warns us there will be rumors of war and nations against nations. And when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction, the sacrifice of the heifer may seem, but spiritually, a warning from heaven to those who have yet awakened. Faced with this, many Christians ask themselves, what should we do? The answer isn't to take political sides. It's to be vigilant, to be discerning, to cry out to the Lord for understanding. The third temple will be built. This is prophecy. It's not a question of if, but of when. And if the red heifer is approved and everything indicates that we are very close to that, then we will see the chapters of Ezekiel, Daniel, Revelation, and 2 Thessalonians unfold before our eyes. This isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. Time isn't running out. Time has already begun to run its course. While the world plays with distractions, the prophetic countdown is active. Many still mock, scoff, or simply ignore the signs. But the Lord warned that it would be this way. As in the days of Noah, they were eating, drinking, marrying, until the flood came. Today, the signs are different. They are earthquakes, wars, artificial intelligence, and a red heifer in Shiloh. Each of these elements alone may seem small, but together they form a picture, a warning, a call. The temple has not yet been built, but the bricks of prophetic time are being laid one by one. Have you ever wondered why the sacrifice of the red heifer hasn't happened yet? The animal is there in Israel. Evaluations are still progressing. But there's something holding this final step back. Fear. Not the fear of the Jews. Not the fear. But the fear of global consequences. Because once the heifer is sacrificed, the purification ritual will officially begin. And this, according to tradition, paves the way for them to the temple. But the temple is not yet. And to build this building on the Temple Mount, with all the tension already existing in the region, it's like lighting a match in a powder magazine. Israeli leaders notice, the rabbis know, and so do Muslims. Any attempt to move in the holy area could trigger an unprecedented. Therefore, the sacrifice of the heifer became a symbol of a point of no return. Many believe that the ritual will only be performed when it is certain that the temple will actually be built. And this is precisely where the spiritual mystery, according to tradition, the one who must sacrifice the 10th heifer is the Messiah. And this presents us with, will the sacrificed heifer, will it be an act of redemption or a harbinger of judgment? For Christians attentive to scripture, this question has a clear answer. In 2 Thessalonians 2, Paul warns of the man of lawlessness who will sit in the temple as if he were God. In Revelation 11, we read of God's temple being measured. In Daniel, the daily sacrifice is interrupted by the abomination of. All these texts point to a physical temple being rebuilt, and the beginning of it all lies in this red heifer. That's why this animal has become more important than any other political or religious issue today, because it's not just a sign, it's a trigger, an eschatological marker, a key piece in God's clock. And it's not just the spiritual world that's on alert. Surveillance groups, journalists, and even security agencies are already monitoring the movements around the heifers. They are monitored 24 hours a day. There are cameras, guards, fences, everything to ensure that if one of them is approved, the ritual can take place in complete secrecy or with complete protection. But what no one can protect is the spiritual impact of this event. Just as with the birth of Jesus, few will notice the sign when it comes true. Many will scoff. Others will ignore it, but those who know the prophecy will understand that something has changed in the unseen world forever. Meanwhile, voices arise behind the scenes trying to prevent this prophecy from coming true. Some religious leaders ask for the sacrifice to be postponed. Others propose an alternative temple. Some even suggest dividing the mountain into 3 parts, one for each religion. But all of this clashes with a prophetic truth. God has determined where the temple should be built, and he does not share his glory with anyone. That's why tensions are rising. That's why confrontations are escalating. It's not about politics. It's about worship. The world is fighting over a lot, but heaven is watching the altar, and when the fire touches the sacrifice, everything will be. You might think this will take a while, that there's still a lot to happen before. But remember, in 1948, no one believed that Israel would ever become. And one day, the impossible. So it will be with the temple. So it will be with Christ's return. Things may seem slow until suddenly everything changes. And he who is prepared will recognize the signs, because they won't come with a loud warning. They are already here in Shiloh, in Jerusalem, in Numbers 19. And now, before your eyes, the heifer is alive and the altar is being prepared. The story of the red heifer isn't just a prophetic curiosity. It is a warning from heaven. The world is distracted by 1,000 narratives, politics, technology, economics, war. But there is an invisible thread connecting all of this to God's eternal plan. And this thread passes through Jerusalem. It passes through an altar, through a temple, through an animal carrying within itself centuries of waiting, a sacrifice that has already been made 9 times. And the next one will be the last. The world may ignore, but heaven is not silent. And if our spiritual eyes are not open, many will be caught off guard, because prophetic time does not depend on. It advances with or without our permission. Today, the heifer is alive. She breathes, walks, grows, and with each passing day, we are closer to the final revelation. When it is approved, and all indications are that one of them will be, the wheel will turn. Are already being trained. The temple furnishings have already been. Even the altars. All that's missing is purification. All that's missing is water mixed with ashes. All that's missing is sacrifice. And when that happens, the world will witness a play that has been rehearsed since Moses. Only now, it will be the final act. For some, it will be the fulfillment of hope. For others, it will be the beginning of judgment. We can no longer pretend this is just theory. It's documented. It's underway. It's about to explode. What was foretold by Isaiah, Daniel, Zechariah, Jesus, and John is converging on. And you who are listening to this message now were not chosen. God is showing you something. He is telling you, watch, pray, sanctify yourself. Because the days are evil and the signs are clear. And if the signs are clear, the church's silence cannot continue. If this heifer is truly sacrificed, and everything indicates that it will be, the prophetic clock will sound the loudest alarm since Pentecost. But unlike Pentecost, there will be no tongues of fire upon heads. There will be fire upon an altar and blood spilled on disputed ground. And at that moment, many will remember what they heard. Others will weep for not having taken it seriously. Don't wait for the temple to be built to believe, because when that happens, it will be too late to prepare. The Messiah will come, and so will the false Messiah. And only those who know the truth will be able to discern. The red heifer is not there. She is the beginning of it. And the beginning of the end has already begun. The world looks to the economy. Heaven looks to Jerusalem. You might think, but what can I, an ordinary person, do in the face of all this? The answer is clear. Repent, seek God, cleanse the altar of your life. Because while earth fights over a mountain, heaven is preparing a bride. And this bride needs to be dressed in white, with a lamp lit and a pray for Jerusalem. Cry out for the discernment of the Spirit. Teach your children. Warn your brothers. Preach, share, fast, and be vigilant. For the trumpet will not sound twice. And when it sounds, those who are prepared will be taken. Those who are not will be left for the tribulation. And now, I ask you, what will you do with this information? Will you go on with your life as if nothing were happening? Or will you take a stand because the Lord is giving you a chance to escape distraction, to abandon hidden sin, to close the gaps, to consecrate yourself? And if you felt that the Holy Spirit spoke to you through this message, then share it. Send this video to someone who needs a wake-up call. Pray for your home. Pray for your church. Pray for Israel. Because something big is about to happen. And when it does, you won't be able to say you didn't know. You were warned. Don't forget to download our book, The Secret Behind Biblical Prophecy. We've already sold over 500,000 copies, and we're running out of copies, so don't waste time and take advantage. I guarantee you'll gain a wealth of knowledge after reading this sensational book, written with great care and love for all our channel subscribers and entirely based on the Holy Bible. The link is in the first pinned comment.